I'm Jerry O's, and I have my co-worker Tate Powell running the camera, and we're going to put this bio sand filter round mold together from beginning to end. And to start with, we'll go with the wooden base. We've got two 1x2s and we got three 1x6s. 1x6s will set upon the 1x2s. The reason we use 1x6s and 1x2s is so it can make a neat package to put in the carrying case, the sonotube carrying case, to be very portable, can be checked on the airline with your luggage. Everything that we are putting together for this round mold goes inside of that sonotube. That cardboard sonotube holds all these pieces. For our base, we like to have a perfect circle guide for when we put our support band down. So we can just use a piece of tin, or here we're using a diffuser plate. Stick your felt tip pin in there and your Sharpie and just go around to make your complete circle. And then when you set your base ring down, you've got a guide so you get the thing nice and round. And if it, through shipping and whatnot, if it gets a little bit squished, you can kind of tweak it a little bit and get it to fit your circle. There, it looks pretty good to me right there. And this will be the ring that holds the outer mold while you're pouring. And note we've got a little hole here for fastening the outer mold down to the ring, and we'll also fasten the ring to the base through these little clips we've got here. We've got here our 22 gauge sheet metal, galvanized, and it's 36 inches by 48 inches. 48 inches long, 36 inches high. And this will be screwed together with 4 screws. And these screws are put in from the outside. Tie it around. And here's where our nose is screwed onto. We got a nose plate. The nose goes on here. We've got the filler strip goes in here that we'll explain later how that needs to be loosened after we pour. That'll be the filler strip, and then under the nose will go the nose cap, and that'll be screwed right into here. So at this time I'll screw all these pieces into place. Okay, we've got our outer mold assembled. We've got the nose in, the nose plate, the filler, we've got the ring mounted, and now we're fastening the outer mold down to the bottom ring. And we made these are homemade, just a round dowel with a 1/4 inch hole in it, and the 1/4 inch nut driver drives into that 1/4 inch hole. And we try to supply one of these little nut drivers with each mold. So there'd be one going here. Now you can use this little light number 8 screw, or you can use a 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch sheet metal screw. And with these 2 screws, this one and the one 180 degrees over on this other side, what these two screws do is hold the outer mold down to the base while you're tamping your concrete. It's important that your outer mold doesn't work up and pop out of this ring, and that's why we put these screws in here and it's screwed down, secured firmly to our base. Okay, we're going to show you the parts for the inner mold for this biosand filter. This whole biosand filter is designed around the Home Depot bucket lid. This Home Depot bucket lid has a 7/8 lip on it, and it's 12 inches in diameter. The reason it works pretty well is because it's pliable, and you can use it for the inner mold, and after your concrete hardens, you can take the ropes and just pull the bucket lids out from the inside of the mold and then disassemble the inner mold, because the screws are inserted from the inside of the inner mold. These 4 angle irons will be screwed in equal spacing around the inner mold, and they are both stiffeners and spacers. When I say spacers, I mean that they hold the bucket lid at the right distance up from the bottom. I'm sorry, I don't mean up from the bottom. They hold the bucket lid below the bottom edge of the inner mold just a bit, so that when you disassemble the inner mold, the concrete doesn't harden and fasten your inner mold to the cylinder walls. So these spacers are the right length to keep that bucket lid just a skosh, maybe 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch below the edge of the inner mold. Now we have to have a way of holding the diffuser plate down 6 3/4 inches from the top of the filter, and we insert 4 of these plastic inserts. Now this seems to be about the ideal plastic insert, but I didn't have enough of these, so I used this white one, and then I can just cut off 1/4 inch or so to make it shorter, so that we can substitute this white plastic for the blue plastic. But any plastic anchor about this diameter will work with these little number 8 screws. Now we're using these aluminum angle irons for our spacer to hold the bucket lids in place, but they could be substituted with a good hardwood like a strip of oak. We've done that as well. Now it's important that the angle iron is inserted with these holes so that you can reach them to demold. In other words, the distance from the top of this angle iron to the top of this mold is 7/8 of an inch, and that 7/8 is the width of this bucket lid. So with this spacer in place, your bucket lid will be flush with the top of the inner mold. Now on the bottom, it's not the case. At the bottom, it's 11/16 from the bottom of the spacer to the bottom of the inner mold. And that is so that, as I mentioned previously, so that that bucket lid will protrude down below the edge of the inner mold. So these 4 spacers will go right into these. Okay, we've got our inner mold pretty well assembled. We've got our angle iron spacers screwed in place. Notice that we are now going to put in the diffuser plate retainer anchors. And of course, all these screws are put in from the inside so we can remove them. Of course, the anchor will stay in the concrete. And there's 4 of these that are equally spaced around the inner mold. There's one, and we'll go here. These are the spacers that hold the top, hold the innermost centered on the outer mold. And they go down in here just like this. But the other thing that this top cross piece, it's the top one, the other thing it does, it holds the inner mold from floating up when you're tamping your concrete. It holds it down by screwing this little plumber tape tab down to the wall once it's in place. I'm going to have to put the tab on this end. Now, be sure and put the tab on the top one, not the bottom one, because the top one is the one that's holding the inner mold down while you're pouring. And we just simply fold this tab down like this. Put the screw in. Okay, it's important to take your felt tip pin, where's my felt tip pin, and mark this one with one mark and one mark, because this is where it will always go. 2 marks here, 2 marks here. We do the same thing on our base. We put 2 marks here, 2 marks here. And if you're afraid that you won't be able to see these 2 marks, take a grinder and grind 2 notches into this ring, because it'll get filled with concrete and you may not be able to identify it. That's so that when you assemble, the screws go in the same hole. Put 1 mark, 1 mark. Okay. Prior to pouring the concrete, we'll oil all surfaces that'll come in contact with the cement. So the base gets oiled well, the inside of the outer mold, and the nose, and then the top, bottom sides of the inner mold. Okay, now in oiling this inner mold, we're careful not to oil the anchors because we want those to fasten solid to our concrete.